they're just such a great couple, and I'm just like writing about them in the Sun. It was a joy because this couple have been nothing but, to me, uh, just a real pleasure to work with for the last 20 years, and I see the way that Queen has changed the Prince. He's much more relaxed. He doesn't get so stressed over things. He doesn't get too wound up. He doesn't get at least he doesn't do it too often. Get too angry. And she just says, "Come on, darling, let's do it." And he listens to her, and it's just terrific to see. And he's doing this job, but I don't think he could have done it without her support. It's because he's not been very well, and she's been there all the time, helping him if he couldn't do an engagement, doing the engagement for him, or just being very pleasant to us when she'd say, "If only he'd do what he's told, he'd be fine," which is telling us, that he's working too hard, but he's responded well to the treatment, which is all we can hope we can do. They've both got a great sense of humor, and the smallest thing sets them off. I remember once we were in Canada, and there was this woman sort of doing throat singing. It was quite bizarre and quite wasn't. I didn't think it was very nice, but Camilla couldn't stop laughing. She couldn't stop herself laughing, and then he gets the giggles too, and they laugh out loud. I mean, at the Balmoral Games or wherever they're together for a while, she'll see the funny side of something, or he will, and they'll point it out to the other one, and they'll have a good chuckle. And I think, when you can laugh with someone all the time, laugh with someone, and it means you care for someone. If you don't like anybody, you don't want to listen to their jokes. You don't want to just laugh with them. You don't want to enjoy a fun moment or just a good joke. They just are so together, and they don't live in each other's pockets at weekends. She goes to her own home in Wiltshire, where she entertains her grandchildren, which she adores. And the king often pops over there, and he plays with the grandchildren as well. And he's a different person, and that's just it. And then, of course, he's got his fabulous gardens at Highgrove, which he no longer has time to do because now he's our head of state. He's just non-stop. If you look at his diary every day, he's meeting an ambassador, or he's saying farewell to an ambassador, or he's doing a sort of just an engagement, just meeting a foreign visitor, a visiting king or a visiting sheikh, or giving out medals. I mean, he's just so busy, and he must miss his beloved garden. And it was nice to see that after he had that little scare last week when he went to have a checkup at the hospital, he cancelled everything and went down to Highgrove. And I imagine the pair of in the garden, they both love gardening. It's absolutely stunning what he's done with that. He's turned a field into a most amazing garden. And of course, those things, if you care about gardening together, you care about doing engagement together, care about horses together. They love horses. I mean, she was a great rider, Camilla. I mean, they used to ride. I remember in the 70s, them two riding together in the same cross-country team. I mean, she was a fearsome rider, and so was he. And in fact, the first time I photographed Camilla was with him in his riding school, in his cross-country team. And then when she was escorting, doing a chaperone to Diana at Ludlow races, where Prince Charles was racing, and came second in the race. And so, I mean, probably, as everybody says, he should have probably married her when he was 23, but he couldn't. He just had so many things to do. He had to, when you're being trained to be a king, you have to go in the army and the navy and the air force and the marines and all these different branches of services, because when you become head of state, you're commander in chief of the military. And of course, and he couldn't do that. And he had to go to business school because he's got to learn to run the Duchy of Cornwall and the farms he owns and the things that just can't, 23, just can't get married. And he couldn't. And it's a shame, really, because if they'd have married then, probably their marriage, we would be celebrating 50 years of marriage almost, maybe, so that would have been a quite an event. The thing is also, I mean, she never overshadows him. I mean, with our late Queen Elizabeth and the Duke of Edinburgh, he was a very powerful force, Duke of Edinburgh, but he always walked a few paces behind the Queen because he was the consort. She was the head of state. He was the consort. He was there to support her. And Camilla's exactly the same. She's there to support him. Whatever he wants to do, she'll do. When he makes a speech, she looks at him adoringly. I can tell you, it's not false. She does. She's so proud of him. And and I remember once we were in Delhi, New Delhi in India, for the opening of the Commonwealth Games, and they wanted to sit Camilla somewhere away from the prince. And she saw where they put her and said, I'm not sitting there. I'm sitting next to my husband. And she got up and walked and sat next to her husband. And she wasn't, nothing could have altered that. They had a protocol, or the president of India would not have altered that. She was going to sit with my husband. And you know what? That just tells you everything about her. She absolutely adores him. She absolutely loves him to death. And he loves her too. And as he always refers to as my darling wife. And I mean it. And when they talk to each other, it's darling, darling, darling. And I just think that's superb. I remember once we went to a dinner and she was wearing a handbag in the shape of a Union Jack. And, she sort of great delight in showing us this. But then we went across to the West Coast, and we went up to, oh, no, I can't remember the name of the town now, but it's a town in upper uh, California. And I went to a market. I remember someone gave her a peach in this marketplace, and she took a big bite out of it, And I remember saying to someone, "God, Diana would never have done that." And she got involved, And then the best of all was when we were in Washington, and they were signing the visitors book. Now that picture is normally extremely boring, but you do it anyway because you think you should. But he signed, and then he gave his pen to Camilla, and then she signed, and then he asked for his pen back. She said, "No, I'm not giving it you." It was quite funny, and I'll never forget that. And I remember seeing that and thinking, "God, this is so different." And I remember immediately stopped what I was doing and filed that picture to London, and it published because it was so different from what I'd been doing before. So she was her own person, but what I just said earlier. This lady never lost a common touch, and that's her great strength. Never lost the common touch. Never frightened to say hello, Arthur, or good morning, Arthur, or um, just generally be nice. And she is nice. And every photographer that covers this job adores that woman. They love working with her because she always so helpful, always so helpful. Smiles like knocks your eyes out. She smiles so beautifully. So, she's 77 now, but she looks amazing. And I just hope they go on and have many more years together.